Listening to them.
Starting to see our country come back. It's been a very exciting few days. We're starting to see it all come back. The lives of Native American families and tribes more than any administration has ever done by far. We're grateful to be joined by Governor Doug Ducey, and thank you very much, Doug, for being with us.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Secretary Eugene Scalia, thank you. Senator Martha McSally, who's doing very well. I hear things are very good. You're doing great. Thank you, Martha. Vice President of Navajo Nation, Myron Lizer, and by the way, we appreciate it very much. And you know, there's two ways of saying that name. They told me outside, but I always think of it as Lizer. So how do you like it? How do you like it? That's what I thought. Okay. Thanks, Myron, very much. And Second Lady, thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate it. The Navajo Nation has been very special to a lot of people, and it's certainly been very special to this state. And the relationship, Doug, I think is extraordinary, isn't it? If you get right down to it. So thank you very much, and we very much appreciate it. Native Americans have been hit hard by the terrible pandemic. Over 2,000 members of the Navajo Nation have tested positive for the coronavirus, and tragically more than 70 have lost their lives. How is it looking right now? How's it doing?
Well, the numbers are still rising. We're hoping that it flattens. Our health professionals have said that the peak will be in mid-May, and it's kind of uncanny, and it's fallen that way. So 2,400 infected, there's 73 that have succumbed, and that's too many.
That's a lot. Mitigation-wise, you're doing what?
We have shut down enacted a 57-hour curfew over the weekend. Our people love to travel out to the border towns off the reservation. Recently, the National Guard came in and shut down Gallup under a new mayor leadership in Gallup, New Mexico. So they've been on lockdown for 5-6 days now. So that's helped. But people are readily going to other border towns like Flagstaff and Farmington, New Mexico. So I think the super majority are obeying and staying home.
Well, what we're doing, you know, we're bringing these two. These are very hard to come by because they're very popular. This is done by Abbott Laboratories, and we're bringing them for you. And these are the quick tests, and they're very accurate and very fast. So we're doing that. I think we have 1,000 cartridges too, 1,000 for 1,000 tests. So hopefully that'll be helpful to you. We appreciate it because you've done a fantastic job. You've been great friends. Native Americans have been hit hard by this terrible pandemic. Over 2,000 members of the Navajo Nation have really, I mean, it's been incredible what's taken place, and there's nothing we can say. But the coronavirus is tragically, as you just said, 70 people have lost their lives. The administration is deploying the full resources of the federal government to support and protect our Native American communities in this very grave time of need. And I know that I think I can speak very strongly for Martha and for the governor. We're full hands on deck, and you're working very hard. I know that, Doug. Work very, very hard. And even Department of Labor. It's been working very hard with everybody that's in this room and everybody that needs to be, right? Anything you have to say, by the way, Gene, while you're here, please?
It's a pleasure to be here. It's wonderful being on the road again, as you know, Mr. President. And then great being in Arizona, which is such a spectacular state, and the Native American communities here are such a great part of the state and really our nation and our nation's heritage. So it's so good to be here. I know, Mr. President, you have important announcements made today about additional things we're doing to help these tribal governments. And we're certainly doing all we can at the Labor Department to implement the legislation that you signed. You got enacted so incredibly quickly. People forget, 3 weeks in March, 3 major pieces of legislation with paid leave, with unemployment benefits, and with the Paycheck Protection Program to put us in position to get going again. And now, Governor Ducey and I were just talking about it, we're reopening, and it's a wonderful thing to see. I think we're well positioned. And I think, Mr. President, with your leadership, we're going to get back to where we were just a few weeks ago. Things were going so well, and we'll get there. We had a nice conversation with the governor, Vice President, Second Lady, and I a little while ago. We were talking about some of the things we're doing for the department.
I mentioned these dislocated worker grants that are made available also to tribal governments. So I encourage you to look into that and see if we can help you with
And
that.
I'd like to introduce also the governor, Stephen Lewis, who's been terrific in working with us very hard. Thank you very much, Stephen. That's fantastic. We appreciate it very much. How's it going?
Well, it's going to a point where we're trying to keep beyond the curve as well. We're located just not far from here, our traditional lands and our reservation land base.
That's Gila
River, home to one of the flag raisers on Mount Suribachi, Ira Hayes.
Right.
And
that's beautiful territory, isn't it?
It is. Thank you, President.
But it's how are you doing in terms of the amount? What are your numbers now, as of today? What are your numbers?
Our numbers, we've tested over 1,000. We've had about just over 1,100 tests. We've had 1 fatality. We have 44 positive tests. Our tribal community is around 23,000 members. So we are keeping ahead of the curve, but I know testing is a big issue. And also, thank you for working with your administration on getting one of the Abbott analyzers as well. We were one of the first tribes to get one as well. And then also working with Governor Ducey, getting 5 ventilators as well.
That's right.
We run our own healthcare, independent of the Indian Health Service, Gila River Healthcare.
That's great.
And so we hire our own doctors, we put our own communities members to work, and from other tribes as well. And so we're taking care of our own tribal members on this. We have an incident command that we've started as well. All of our departments are collaborating for one purpose, and that's to keep our community members safe.
That's fantastic. Good. And you have the ventilators here soon, I know, right? Knowing Doug, they're good ventilators too, aren't they?
Yes.
They're really good. Weeks ago, I signed the CARES Act, which includes $8 billion to help tribal governments, and I want to thank Senator McSally for fighting hard to get those funds and get them here and get them to a lot of different people all over the country, including to the folks in this room. So I want to thank you, Martha. You've done a fantastic job. You really have. This is the single largest investment in Indian country in our history. So the amount of money that's being sent to Indian country, as we call it, is the largest amount in the history of the U.S., and you deserve it, and you've been through a lot. The Navajo Nation will soon receive over $600 million. That's a lot. Should I renegotiate that? Can we renegotiate that? Only if we go up. He said only if you go up. I've heard that before. The Lihu River will receive, and I think you probably know all about this, but we're giving you some information, $40 million. And you're going to use that very well. I know that because I know you. You're going to be given $40 million in initial funds to help protect their citizens from the scourge, from the plague, from what we're all fighting in this country. Should have never happened, should have been contained from where it came. Since I took office, my administration has also worked to repatriate precious Native American artifacts, to protect children in the care of the Indian Health and Indian Health Service, and to make Eagle remains more easily accessible for cultural and religious purposes, and to highlight the contributions of Native American veterans throughout the history of our nation. So you know all those elements. And the Eagle remains is a very important thing to you, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
Very important. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Last year I signed the first presidential proclamation recognizing the tragedy of missing and murdered American Indians and Alaska Natives. We also launched Operation Lady Justice and provided $273 million to improve public safety in Native American tribal communities. At the end of this event, I will once again sign a proclamation recognizing missing and murdered American Indians and Alaska Native Awareness Day. It's been a tremendous problem, missing and murdered American Indians. Could you discuss that for a second, please?
I don't want to steal a second lady's thunder here.
I'd like to have the second lady. Go ahead, please.
What we Navajo Nation has been really hit hard by missing and murdered Indigenous women. It seems to be a growing issue that's been happening with Navajo, and so we. With the Ashlyn Mike case that came up in 2016, where she was kidnapped and raped and murdered in Shiprock, New Mexico, May 2nd, 2016. So that's kind of what opened the door for Navajo to start saying, okay, we need to do something, because that became the forefront. And so since then, the Amber Alert on Navajo Nation has gotten better, but still needs help with funding, still needs help with getting the data together. Our First Lady, Cecilia Nez, is also part of the New Mexico task force that's getting together data. And so we're just really needing help in that sense. And so we don't